See, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is my second time going live on the Speak Pros page. I'm Mei Ling Chan, and I am so excited to have you join us today. Today, we are going to be meeting with Lucas Stuber, who is also the Director of Product Development at Cognition and an expert in the AAC industry. So let's bring him on. Good morning, Lucas. How are you?
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm wonderful. This is all working so nicely. I'm
I
so
know this is like
excited.
a cool new app. I've never seen this before. So I'm kind of on my phone here, but yes, here in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you can see my wife Estelle's little setup here looking out into the beautiful gray weather. But that's
Is it
okay
gray
because you
there?
know what? If it's gray, then that's another reason to be inside, which I'm doing anyway. So
Oh, well, I don't know if this is something to make you feel better or worse. We're having a heat wave. We're going up to 105 today in Phoenix,
that
Arizona.
makes me feel better, actually. It does. I think it's
Yeah.
it's 42 degrees here.
Oh, well, this is like, it's nice and warm, but it's so warm you could like fry an egg. We start to get to that
Right.
ridiculous heat. But this is actually hot for May. It should only be in like the 98, 99. So we actually had warnings that came out that says we're having a heat wave.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, stay indoors.
I know,
All
but
right.
but you used to live in Arizona, is that correct?
I did. I went to high school in Scottsdale. So I only lived there for about a year, but it was good.
That's awesome. You are so cool,
But I
Lucas
think I
Stuber.
got heat stroke there once, so I still have never quite. I think I'm too Norwegian or something in my my taste for weather. So
Excellent. Well, I wanted to catch up with you. We're doing a really quick AAC What's New, What's Next? And we're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 9 o'clock with different leaders in the industry. And I'm starting with you because you are my partner over at Cognition. So let's just start with that. What are you doing with this amazing new company?
oh my gosh, I'm like so honored to be the first one of this the interview series. Especially you've got I know some. I don't want to foreshadow, but some big names coming. So that's a really good question. I mean, so I joined, Cognition not too long before you did, right? So January or so, and then dragged you kicking and screaming into the world here. What I do is I basically head up the product development side. I was also handling sales and marketing for a brief period of time, but May, you've done an incredible job of taking a lot of that on. So um, what we're doing right now, and it's kind of funny. I feel like this was like a monkey's paw wish that I've often said in development in the past, like, gosh, I wish I just had like 3 months to work on stuff, and to really put out a good release. And so that's what we inadvertently were sort of able to do. I mean, everyone, thankfully, no one in the company has gotten ill. We've all just been nose to the grindstone. We took on essentially a really big project, and it's going to be really transformative. When it releases. So it's been nice actually to have some time to really focus in. I'm really grateful to our development team, which is mostly based out of Toronto in Canada. They've done an incredible job of just muscling this down, as well as obviously our leadership team in Santa Barbara. So I'm a little jealous because I would like that California weather right now, but
Oh my God, I
it's
know.
a good opportunity just to get things done and to really think about like what the future, like your theme, like what's the future of the industry and how can we support that and how can we support our users and get past this massive sort of hurdle that we have in the industry of people just not being aware of AC. So
Exactly. Well, I want to point out this widget here. So it says day 54, and in little letters it says of quarantine. So my family, myself, my husband, and my son, who's 23, we've been locked down for 54 days. And, that number is amazing to myself. I mean, I am the social butterfly, I'm out, I'm doing things. And I think, we vacillate in our being in touch with the reality of all this. Sometimes it's like, what's the big deal? Let's just go out, and then other times you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It's just incredible. But what I've been seeing is how our experts, how our leaders, how our parents, how users have really changed the way that they're doing things within these 40, 50 days. And so that's why I spoke with you and I said, you know what, let's start bringing together people who are at like that really cutting edge of what's going on out there, and let's find out. The first question is what's new. So I'd like to start with you, and I feel like you're someone who always has like this aggregate touch, like you get information from all different places, in addition to information that's, available through blogs and things, but you're always talking to leaders, you're talking to AAC developers. I mean, I'm always amazed, Lucas, really, at how connected you are. So I would love if you could share with us what's actually new that's going on since obviously we've been locked down.
Well, I mean, I think you hit sort of the highlight of it is everybody's had to find some new ways to work, right? Is especially I would say in the space of like assessment, more than anything. I know a lot of SLPs that are really successfully doing like teleconsultation services, which is kind of
Yes.
more directed towards the parents and the caregivers, which we might touch on again, because I really actually strongly feel that's maybe the direction that the industry needs to go. But assessment has been a challenge, and the people that we know that have still been really successfully driving a lot of assessment are mostly hospital based, right, in the VAs and that sort of thing. And so I would actually love to hear if anyone is, watches this or is watching now, like I'd be really curious for input, from SLPs just in a global scale, like what, how are you now, because we had a lot of conversations dating back 4 and 6 weeks. And when all, like you say, 54 days when this all started, like, it seems like everybody's had to adjust their plans a couple of times. And so, one of the things that we've been weighing, for example, is like the extent to which we want to develop tools to specifically support telepractice, and there's a real question, I think, of like, is this the new normal, right? Because on the one hand, I kind of don't want to, invest a ton of time into building stuff that isn't going to be useful in the long term. But if this is the way that people are pivoting, and that's kind of what I'm hearing from especially like contract agencies, is that they're looking towards a lot more telepractice next year, then AAC is sort of like uniquely, I don't know if challenging is the right word, but I mean, there are some things that we could do to specifically support telepractice, like screen sharing within the apps and things like that. And so that's something that we're actively looking into pretty aggressively. But that's kind of, I mean, what's new is tough, right? I mean, there's a lot of the sort of specific academic institutions that we work with around research and that sort of thing. Some of them are trucking along. Some of them have been forced to sort of take a little pause. We have been working directly with, as ASHA themselves, as well as a variety of hospitals and the VA about COVID specifically. So that's, it's obviously been on my mind. There is this enormous unaddressed population around respiratory care that we've been, you highlighted it in your last week, addressing. So I think it's revealing a lot of things that it's accelerating a process that was already happening, if that makes sense. I think that this was always the direction we were going to have to go, and we're actually sort of inadvertently discovering some new populations that we can serve, but it's come at a cost, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. People have been asking me what it's been like to be with Cognition. I started March 16, and I said it was like being shot out of a cannon. And I have to, I've worked in medical before, and we were immediately thrown into, as you're saying, like this medical, respiratory vents and trach situation where we were not, when I was working in medical, we were not coming in with high tech. We were coming in with no tech, which is that PDF paper, that what's your pain scale, yes, no, things like that. And
right.
What we developed together, that PDF, it is so intimate and personal, and being able to now talk about how we can translate that into the Cognition app and make it so personal and individualized. That has just been an amazing, like, I guess, a growth for me in how to see AAC, because
Right.
I think I've seen it very restrictive. I don't know why, but just this is so different. And it's been, like I said, just this amazing journey. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, which is what's new. What's next? Let me need to change that because I got this all set up here. So we're gonna.
Ooh, we have more graphics. Nice.
Yes, we do. I know, right? I set this all up. I want to make sure that I use it all. I really, really love this. It's different than Zoom because, it's just more fun.
I know, I can't have all my fake backgrounds though. Like, what the heck?
That's the only thing. Yes, you can't do a background. I know you like to be, on the beach or something. Okay, so taking into consideration that we just don't know, when we're all going back to work and when we can all be physically with each other again, what do you see next, in the future of AAC?
Well, my gut tells me, and I guess I alluded to this, but my gut tells me that the telepractice theme is going to continue, and I think that in the specific form of teleconsultation, and it's going to be interesting. You know, right now, I almost don't even want to comment on it because the rules are changing every single day. But there's so much. You know, ASHA I think has done an incredible job of keeping up on the licensure requirements. You know, state by state, and right now, a lot of that is lifted, right? But you know, it's sort of remains to be seen to what extent that's all going to remain lifted. And you know, we have a lot of states that are creating these sort of pacts now of licensure being able to be exchanged, you know, between Montana and Oregon or whatever. And I think that's actually honestly a really good step forward. Um, I would like to move away from what we have traditionally called the expert model in AAC and really bring a lot of empowerment to parents and caregivers. And so that's
Yeah.
it looks like you agree. So, and
Yes.
that's where a lot of our work is focused right now. Certainly is in building those tools and supports and just making the whole process, even just of like onboarding and the initial experience, a lot easier. But also what you're seeing from us right now, you know, without revealing too much, is kind of the tip of the iceberg. Like there's a reason why we have a whole engineering crew in Toronto that is, you know, neuroscientists. You know, there is kind of this next step of evolution that you know, again, this has maybe given us a moment to sort of prepare for, but it's going to be fascinating to watch the trajectory of this industry in the next, you know, 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic. Well, the blower guy is showing up right now. That always happens. So if you
The
start to
flower
hear
blower guy? Oh,
the
okay.
the landscaper, right? I can hear him getting closer and closer. I'm like, no. So
Good
this
setup there, by
actually,
the way. You've got like almost a between two ferns kind of thing here. I really dig it.
I'm between two friends. That's awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, Lucas. Thank you for joining me as my very first guest and really helping us to hone in on two very important things to think about right now. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I really thank you for bringing me to the Cognition family. It's
Yeah, no,
just
thank
been
you for
amazing.
joining, and I'm so excited for what you're doing with these interviews. And next week you have someone way cooler than me, right? So
Yeah, let's get to that. So we're going to say goodbye to Lucas first. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day,
thank
which I'm
you.
sure I'll see you times.
Yep, I'm sure we'll. What day is it anyway? Wednesday. Wednesday. All right,
Okay,
cheers.
thanks, Lucas. Okay, so he alluded to our guest next week is Carol Zangari, and I am so honored. I got to talk with her last week, and it was actually the first time I had really kind of met her in person. You know, we've interacted online, but we jumped on Zoom and we got to connect. And I said to her, you know, I'm going to start this series. I would love for you to come on and share, you know, where you're at. She has been creating practical AAC for years, and she is another person who reminds me of Lucas, who really has just a hand in all of these different things that are going on. And I really feel that she's been very objective in all of her information. And when she puts something out, like a resource for us, it just goes wild. So this is going to be fantastic to connect with her, get her perspective on what's new and what she sees for the future. So please join us next week, Wednesday, 9 o'clock, right here on the Speak Pros page. Thank you so much, everyone.